Stop me if you've heard this one before. Jesse Minter added another incredible coach to his staff.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network. Appreciate everybody for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day. We have 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage for you on the show. And on today's show, Jesse Minter, just can't say enough good things about him. New hires coming in every day, and they're all good. So we're going to talk about the latest, the big-time college coach joining Jesse Minter's staff. In the second part of the show, a report has come out, something that we're all probably already aware of, but it's now in writing, that John Harbaugh is probably going to want some former Ravens on his squad in New York. And then finally, Hall of Fame snubs. It's the same conversation we had last year. Unfortunately, we have to have it again this season, or this Hall of Fame cycle, I guess. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Here with me today, it is from the Ravens Talk podcast and the Locked On Ravens Squad show, Sam and Njoku. And Sam, it feels like we've had the same conversation for like the last handful of squad shows, last handful of shows. Jesse Minter comes in, he makes a really good hire, and then he just repeats it the next day. And we just have more and more and more to talk about with that. But his staff practically almost all the way rounded out, and he does it again.
Oh, yeah, he certainly does. Jesse Minter has been surprising me a little bit. I thought coming into this season with the new head coach, he'd probably keep a lot of Jim Harbaugh guys, a lot of John Harbaugh guys, a lot of retreads that we'd see time and time again. But he's not been afraid to go outside, go to some collegiate routes, go to some teams outside the conference and get guys that are going to fit this football team. So very excited for him and very excited for this coaching staff.
Yeah. Now the latest hire that we get to talk about today dropped on Thursday night, and that is Lou Esposito, who was the Michigan defensive line coach. He is now going to become the Baltimore defensive line coach. This first reported by Jess Rebeck that the deal was close, and then it was later confirmed essentially by Adam Schefter that, yes, he is going to be the guy. Now, a couple of connections. Jeff reported that Esposito worked for the past 2 years under former Ravens defensive coordinator Don Wink Martindale at Michigan. He also was the defensive coordinator at Western Michigan for 7 seasons. And he and Anthony Weaver, it's a really exciting tandem, but Esposito is a guy that in the college ranks is known as a great recruiter and a talent developer. As Michigan D-lines always do well. And Jonas Schaefer outlined that in his 2 years at Michigan, he worked, and Jonas outlines a couple of draft picks in this class, but 5 likely draft picks. Mason Graham, who was a first rounder in 2025, Kenneth Grant, who was a third rounder, Josiah Stewart, who was a third rounder, and then Derek Moore and Rayshawn Benny are 2 potential picks in the day 2 area this year. So Sam, more high pedigree coaches coming in, a nice mix of pro guys, experienced guys, college guys. I mean, I love that in the staff when you have that much differences in, you're not leaning one way or the other in terms of young, old, pro, college. You're getting a little bit of everything, and I love that with Jesse's staff here.
1,000%. It makes me feel good because Jesse Minter said in his press conference, he wants coaches that are going to come in, bring the culture together, be ready to teach, be ready to evolve this culture that John Harbaugh and Brian Billick and others have set for this franchise. So it'll be very interesting to see this melting pot of phenomenal coaches coming together with one common goal, that to right the ship of this Ravens football team. But yeah, Esposito's a guy very highly touted in college. A lot of Michigan fans are very upset about his departure. Very good at both coaching and recruiting. So it'll be very interesting to see on the collegiate side what Michigan does. But we're not worried about that on our end. We got a guy that can coach the D-line, and we know the problems with this defensive line the last couple of years. And hopefully he comes along with Jesse Minter and rights that ship as well.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And I think that, again, like the dynamic that he and Weaver can have with one another is going to be awesome, because obviously Weaver being the D-line coach here, guys already have a relationship with him. Like there's already that connection. But then Esposito coming in with the track record that he has, that's two really strong defensive, not just defensive minds, but defensive line minds. And so I'm really excited about that, particularly, because again, Travis Jones, I'm really pumped for him under those guys. But one guy that I'm looking at, Sam, Aeneas Peebles under Esposito and Anthony Weaver, I think has the potential. We saw flashes from him last season, didn't get a ton of playing time, but I think Aeneas Peebles, Bub, could really, really break out in year 2 with this coaching staff.
Oh, yeah. If not this year, then the following season. He's a guy that I've been looking at, regardless of whether or not the coaches are going to be what they were. I thought Aeneas Peebles was going to have a strong sophomore and junior year here with the Ravens. But with these talented coaches coming in, him getting into the weight room, him learning how to be a pro at this level, sky's the limit for Peebles as well. So very excited to see those two pair up, maybe even Nnamdi Madubuike, depending on his status. But this defensive line could see major changes, and the coaching staff will have a lot to do with it.
Yeah, also, and again, I don't know, I'm not sure how much the recruiting chops are going to be used in Baltimore because this is not a college program, but he was rated as the 4th ranked recruiter in all of college football, which, again, I guess that could be used for maybe guys want to come play for Anthony Weaver and Esposito. That potentially could be something that could help in a lot of different ways. And Esposito coming in from a talent development standpoint for a young guy like Peebles, and even just to have a guy that can take Travis Jones to the next level. Because again, we see all those flashes, Sam, from Travis, and certainly he's a talented player, but I think we're waiting on that like true breakout campaign from Travis Jones. And again, with this revamped coaching staff, and especially with Minter at the helm and his defense, it all trickles down. It's the Minter effect, the Weaver effect, the Esposito effect. That could be a really big deal for a guy like Travis Jones.
Oh, it could be huge. It could be it could be a phenomenal turnaround. But to your point, I agree with you completely. We saw what happened when they didn't do what they had to do to make sure they had the doomsday scenario in place, because once Madubuike went down, the pass rush said bye-bye. I mean, it was all she wrote for this Ravens defensive front. So I think they really do need to do something like that, bring in a guy, a talented guy, like you said. I think it still does depend on Madubuike. How much money are you really putting in to this football team? A lot of money tied around Madubuike. So I'd be curious what they do. But to your point, Aeneas Peebles, a guy I'm really looking ahead at, kind of similar to Tess Walker on the offensive side of the ball, where these guys could surely break up, especially with the guys highly titled as Esposito to come in here and really make things happen for the defensive front.
Yeah. And I think it's actually really funny that you mentioned earlier that, Michigan fans are devastated at the loss of Esposito. That's like the first thing I turned to. It's like, how does the other fan base feel? And that really started, I guess I've always been monitoring it, but I think it started for me, Sam, when Alejandro Villanueva came to Baltimore and the entire city of Pittsburgh was celebrating. And I'm like, okay, this is not a good feeling that I have right now about that move. But again, you can tell like Esposito, very well respected in the college ranks. As I mentioned, a very good recruiter, very good talent developer. And he actually, according to Matt Fortuna here, was one of 2 assistant coaches that Kyle Whittingham had kept over from last year's Michigan staff, which again, we talk about holdovers and how when you fire a head coach or a head coach leaves, a lot of those other guys also leave, except for the holdovers that the team really wants back. Michigan thought highly enough of Esposito to keep him around on their staff based off what he was able to do. And that to me is a really big deal as well, where you already know like the talent is there, the development is there, and the track record is there. But the fact that he's so widely respected, it feels like that's a theme with all of these coaches that are coming over to Baltimore, Sam, whether it be Mike Mickens from college along with Esposito or some of these veteran coaches they have, or maybe like a Declan Doyle who is new to the offensive coordinator thing. You can sense the respect in a lot of different ways that these guys have for the coaches that are coming to Baltimore right now.
Jesse Minter is hitting dingers for those who are a part of the MLB circle. That is a hiring pathway that I did not really expect coming into this, to be quite honest. I knew they'd probably get 1 or 2 right, but man, they're hitting home run after home run with these hires. I'm just very excited to see how it all comes together. And I'm also very curious to see how the Ravens players currently are reacting to these changes that are coming. Lamar Jackson losing, T. Martin, but gets another quarterback coach. This offensive philosophy that the Ravens have had for, since Lamar Jackson's pretty much been a quarterback will surely be changing this season. So all of these things are looking really good. It shows me that Jesse Minter has a vision for this football team, and he is painting quite the masterpiece, in my opinion, at least in the early going to this offseason process.
Yeah, that's a good word to use. It is an absolute masterpiece for Jesse Minter so far. Coming up in the second part of the show, we will talk about the former coach of this Baltimore Ravens team and John Harbaugh, because there is a report that he is probably going to be looking at Baltimore's roster, or at least free agent roster, to try to get some of those guys to come to Baltimore. So stay tuned. Plenty coming up on the show. First, the show is brought to you by ZocDoc. Finding a doctor you actually like can feel like discovering a diamond in the rough. Sure, you want someone who's a network nearby and has availability, but you also want a doctor who listens, makes you feel comfortable, and explains things clearly. That kind of doctor exists, and finding them is easy with ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors so you can find someone you love without all the hassle. We're talking about booking in-network appointments with 150,000 providers across all 50 states, covering over 200 specialties in primary care and dentistry, dermatology, and eye care. You can see real-time availability and book instantly. No phone calls, no waiting on hold. And you can also read verified patient reviews so you feel confident choosing a doctor you'll actually like. Stop putting off those doctor appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this message. And the show is brought to you by Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates to truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posted on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs. Put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. If I needed to hire someone for this show, I'd go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just a resume buzzword. Instead of struggling to get your job posted, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Back here, Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher and Sam Njoku still here with you, talking Ravens football on this Purple Friday. I don't care. It's not the season. It's Purple Friday every Friday here in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Appreciate everybody for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day, your first listen each and every single day. We have 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. The regular show is Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern time, but we also have bonus episodes on the weekend when there are headlines. Might have some this weekend, might not. I mean, at this rate, new coaches coming in every day, so we'll see. But we also have instant reaction shows after every single piece of Ravens big news and after games during the season. We have watch-alongs during the season, 4 games. We also have the Locked On Ravens squad show twice a week. Sam and I, as well as former Ravens receiver Kadri Ismail, chop it up twice a week, Mondays and Wednesdays, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And also the Everydayer Club for Locked On Ravens, where you can get a lot of different content, whether it be weekly Q&As, access to a Discord server, ad-free episodes, one-on-one text conversation with me, et cetera, et cetera. Link to that's in the description below, as well as on the Locked On website, on the Locked On Ravens page. Sam, we know that John Harbaugh is going to want some of his former Ravens on his roster. And I mean, look, if his coaching decisions in New York weren't enough of a tell for you, I think we all could have assumed that without the report that we got from Connor Hughes, who again is very respected. He did a Giants mailbag on Wednesday and, was asked a lot of different things. And, Connor's someone that he knows his stuff. And a question from a user was, do you think the Giants will pursue Tyler Linderbaum in free agency? And Connor ended up saying, quote, sources I touched base with said to expect this to happen along with several other Ravens. He said, quote, it's commonplace in the NFL for a new coach to bring a handful of guys with him. The best coaches have a message they preach to a team, but the best teams have players who take that message and carry it through the locker room. They set the standard, others follow. And then he also said one thing on Linderbaum. He's not coming cheap. One league source estimates his contract to be worth north of $18 million per year. All right, so let's get this question out of the way first, because I think it's an important one, but one that I don't really want to think about, because I want to think about Linderbaum being in Baltimore, not in New York. How much of a devastating blow would it be for Baltimore? Not only just if Linderbaum went to New York, we can, take that scenario out of it. Just if Linderbaum was to depart Baltimore in free agency, I mean, how big of a blow would that be?
It'd be huge. I don't think I don't even want to think about it. I mean, first of all, he he's more suited for this offense coming in most likely than he was with the offense that he's had the last few seasons he's been in Baltimore. So just being able to see Tyler Linderbaum in an offense like this would be beneficial. But also, you got to think about it. The Ravens are most likely going to be looking to have at least both guard positions looked at this offseason. Now, pull the center into that, and now you have 3 interior linemen, all of your interior linemen, your starting interior linemen, looking elsewhere for work. So I don't know. If I was the front office guy, I would not want that to happen, but seems like we're nearing that type of possibility here with a few weeks left before free agency starts.
Yeah. And we know that, again, I think the way that 18 million number for Linderbaum per year comes into the equation is that is the highest average annual value per year that a center currently has. That's Creed Humphrey in Kansas City with his deal, $72 million in total money there. That also leads the center market. And again, we know why the Ravens declined his 5th-year option, Sam, and it was the correct decision, assuming they were going to bring him back. You know, that, what was it, $23 million was that 5th-year option for Linderbaum. So that would have reset the center market, not only for the entire league, but then Baltimore would have essentially been resetting it for themselves with Linderbaum. So he was going to say, hey, well, you already paid me 23. Why don't you up that a little bit, 24, 25, and then you're in just you're tough sledding there. So again, the key thing there is assuming they're going to bring him back. And I do liken this, as I've mentioned on the squad show and here on just Locked On Ravens in general. It reminds me of the Ronnie Stanley situation last year. And it's something I want to continue to talk about because I think it's important to compare the situations where last year, if you remember, Stanley was a guy that was very coveted throughout the league. And this was obviously before free agency began, but we had heard reports maybe the Patriots were interested, maybe the Chiefs were interested. And when you hear that, you can't let this guy go to free agency because for Stanley, it would have drove that price up. And I think Baltimore got a good deal with Stanley. I think it was good for both parties. But Baltimore, I think, got a deal of a deal with him on that contract just based off what offensive linemen, particularly tackles, that premium position go for. But with Linderbaum, it's kind of the same conversation where if the Ravens allow him to go to free agency, if they are going to be going up. It's not just going to be them against them anymore. It's them against the entire league. And so maybe a deal that could come in at 19 million per year or 20 million per year all of a sudden becomes 23, 24, 25. And I don't know if that deters them or not, but it would make things a little bit more difficult for them to kind of maneuver. But it kind of it's pained me to do this, Sam. But I've kind of just taken Isaiah Likely out of the equation for Baltimore. I want him back in Baltimore. I know a lot of people do, but that Andrews extension, I can't see it unless Likely takes a steal of a deal for Baltimore's side of things. So Linderbaum feels like the big free agent that Baltimore needs to get right, much like Stanley was last year.
Oh, yeah. And I think this is even more so the case than last year. Very similar, like you mentioned, a highly touted offensive lineman that the Ravens need to bring back. But Ryan Stanley was dealing with injuries the last couple of seasons. He came back and had a strong campaign prior to his signing the extension. Tyler Linderbaum has been, by all accounts, a top 5 center throughout the last 3 seasons and hasn't dealt with a lot of injuries, been a pretty steady force, a Pro Bowl type of player. The Giants aren't the only team looking at him. There's going to be plenty of teams. The Bengals are going to be looking at him. Maybe the Chargers are going to be looking at him. So he's going to be highly touted. $18 million a year, I am going to say that's probably not going to be the case. I'm thinking upwards of $20 million a year would be my guess about what's going to happen here. Maybe that's good enough. Maybe the Ravens understand that and re-sign him. Again, the Lamar Jackson extension looms large in regards to them making any type of deal with Tyler Linderbaum. But once that's getting straightened out, the Ravens need to focus on bringing Linderbaum back because if he hits free agency, he's going to see numbers that the Ravens will not be able to match.
And Tyler Linderbaum feels like the biggest Raven that John Harbaugh could potentially steal from Baltimore. But are there any other Ravens, Sam, that you feel like John Harbaugh could have his eye on, you feel like could follow him to New York? Because again, I don't think it's just going to be one player. If John Harbaugh decides to dip into that Ravens pool, I could see multiple different Ravens free agents going to follow John Harbaugh to New York.
Pat Ricard seems like the most obvious of obvious choices for the Giants, pairing him up with Cam Scatterbo. I mean, who wants to deal with that, right? So I think Pat Ricard is probably going to be a highly touted guy for the Giants. I mean, I think there's like less than a third of the league that uses fullback still. So he has a very niche position to deal with Pat Ricard in terms of the market. So you'll need to hope that the Giants are looking forward to bringing him in. Daniel Falele is a guy, he might be, John Harbaugh has his love fest, but he has the ego. He wants to prove people wrong, and nothing will make him happier than to have Daniel Falele go into New York and have a more successful season than with the Ravens. Who else? I could see maybe a trade for a Rashad Bateman, giving Jackson Dart another guy to pair opposite Malik Neighbors. Don't have to use that early round draft pick on a wide receiver this upcoming draft. And there's lots and lots of options here. Chidobe Awuzie, another guy, Draymond Jones. There's a lot of people in the Baltimore facility right now, those Ravens players that I'm sure John Harbaugh is looking to chops at, saying, I can use you. Come over to New York and help me be great.
Yeah, I was thinking Chidobe Awuzie also. I could also, speaking of trades, that's a good idea to throw that in there too. I could see Marlon potentially being a guy. Marlon, from all accounts, I think, has a great relationship with Harbaugh. He was someone that took to social media early and shouted out Harbaugh essentially when he was let go, or I think when he got the Giants job, one of the two. But that could be a potential option if Baltimore doesn't want him or Jesse Mitchell doesn't want him a part of their plans. I could see one of the two tight ends going over there, maybe Isaiah Likely or Charlie Kohler. I think Kohler is a lot more likely to re-sign with the Ravens, but Likely, look, it's better Likely going over there than Cincinnati or Kansas City or New England or wherever. I'd get him in the NFC if he's not going to come back to Baltimore. That'd be my thing. But do you think that in the long run, Sam, it will hurt the Ravens over the next couple of years with John Harbaugh being there potentially as an option for these players to go to, and that connection there where, maybe they choose coach over team? I think it's one of the interesting things as well. Now with Todd Monken being in Cleveland, it's just a really weird, it's like a three-way battle between the Ravens, the Browns, and the Giants for all these Ravens coaches and Ravens free agents. And again, it's probably going to be a thing for the next couple of years, depending on how long Monken and Harbaugh stay in New York and Cleveland, respectively.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no because I just don't think that the Giants and the Browns are desirable locations. Now, I could see a case where the Ravens don't want these veterans and the Giants and Browns say, oh, come on, we'll welcome you with open arms and let's go prove those guys in purple and black wrong. But as far as these guys choosing to go to a Harbaugh who is known to be stubborn, known to be hard-headed in certain regards, known to be the type to just stick to his guns regardless of what's going on around him, or to go to Monken, who is very sharp with his words, doesn't really, doesn't have that player, coach relationship that, has been highly touted in recent years from these other, coordinators and head coaches. I just don't see it. I think that the Ravens are going to really enjoy having these players come in. I'm sure the offensive players are super excited to kind of change the philosophy a little bit here. On the defensive side of the ball, maybe. Again, some of these guys who haven't really, played the way that you thought they'd play these last couple of years, maybe even a guy like Roquan Smith, you can maybe see him go on to other ventures. But as far as wanting to choose the Giants over the Ravens, I just don't see it. I don't think that these players want to deal with, Harbaugh in New York. I think they would much rather have the facilities and all of the options and the chance to really compete for a championship here in Baltimore.
Yeah, and I think that the coaching staff honestly tells you a lot about that, where, I'm sure these guys had other opportunities, for, like we talked about it on the squad show, Declan Doyle could have stayed in Chicago, and obviously the opportunity to call plays, obviously over not calling plays in Chicago was very enticing, but he also turned down the Philly job where he could have called plays too. So it's about Baltimore being that desirable location. So, I'll go with you, Sam. I actually agree with you where, maybe one or two players it pops up, but for the most part, I feel pretty confident, and maybe it's not an 100% hit rate, but if Baltimore, New York, and Cleveland are the three options for a player and the contracts are relatively similar, I'd assume a lot of those players do choose Baltimore. But coming up in the final part of the show, we'll unfortunately have to have a conversation about some Hall of Fame snubs. I just don't know what the deal is here. So we'll talk about a couple of legendary Ravens not making it into Canton again. So be sure to stay tuned. Plenty coming up on the show. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood Prediction Markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involve significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission, merchant, and swap firm. And the show is brought to you by Home Chef. As the new year gets going, a lot of people are trying to simplify their routines, and dinner is a big one. Between busy work days, cold winter nights, and packed schedules, having an easy, reliable dinner plan makes a huge difference. That's where Home Chef comes in. Home Chef takes the stress out of cooking by delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to your door with easy-to-follow recipes that actually taste great. They're rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease, and it's easy to see why. Meals come ready to fit your schedule, 30-minute recipes, oven-ready trays, or quick lunches. They have over 30 weekly options, including family-sized meals and different dietary choices. Recipes are simple but feel elevated, even restaurant quality, with dishes co-created by chefs like Gordon Ramsay. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Just go to homechef.com/lockedon. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. Back here, Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher and Sam Njoku still rocking out with you here on this Friday edition of the show. Thanks again for being here. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button in video form and follow along and subscribe in audio form for 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. Be sure to tell a friend or a family member we're here for them, just like we're here for you on Locked On Ravens. Sam, I don't know what Terrell Suggs and Marshall Yanda have to do, or what did they have to do over the course of their careers to get into the Hall of Fame? Again, they were not added to Canton. They were eligible to be first ballot guys last season. Didn't work out then. This year, they had another opportunity, and guess what? It didn't happen again here. Now, look, I'm not taking anything away from the guys that did make it. That list including, legendary players like Larry Fitzgerald, Drew Brees, etc. Adam Vinatieri makes it in there. So again, it's not about the guys that made it. Roger Craig also getting in. But you also have a couple of incredible players. And the one that a lot of people are curious about is that Luke Kuechly made it in over Terrell Suggs. And again, I'm not taking anything away from Luke Kuechly, who was as a player. He was awesome. But Terrell Suggs is sitting right there. And again, I think that I was shocked that both of them didn't make it. I think people were more shocked with Terrell Suggs not making it based off of his resume. Just, pulling up what Terrell Suggs did over the course of his career quickly. The man had 139 sacks, 202 tackles for loss, which is an all-time career record in terms of tackles for loss, 200 quarterback hits, obviously defensive player of the year, defensive rookie of the year, a huge Pro Bowl guy, like all these things that Terrell Suggs did. I just can't see how we didn't make it, but I guess we're here again.
We are here again. And for me, I wasn't surprised that Suggs didn't make it, because if he didn't make it last year, I didn't think it was going to be this year either. Just to note, he is 7th all time in sacks, and every single player ahead of him is currently in Canton. So he will be making the Hall of Fame. Make no mistake about that. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens in the near future, but it is disappointing to see a guy like Luke Kuechly make it and Terrell Suggs. Now, I think it's just the way the voting process works. Not to take anything again away from Kuechly. I think he's a phenomenal player. It's just this guy has so many sacks. Sacks is the name of the game. We know that the media loves statistics, and he checks all the boxes in that regard. So very much surprised Suggs didn't get in, but again, he is going to get in eventually. Not too worried about it, but maybe waiting a couple of more years for that nod to Canton.
Yeah. What about Marshall Yanda? Again, was that a shock to you? It seemed like people were disappointed, but more understanding of that than Suggs. Again, I was decently surprised both didn't make it. Maybe that is the purple glasses, maybe not. But I watched these guys for like years and years and years, and I feel like they deserve it. But again, there are a lot of talented players in the nominees for Hall of Fame. Not everybody makes it. There's obviously the specific rules, but what about Yanda?
Hot take. I think Yanda deserves it more than Suggs. I think that Yanda is the better player as far as what he's meant to his position. I mean, sacks are sacks, but Yanda was just dominant. I mean, consistently dominant for all those years. And oh, by the way, he was able to shed that weight after his career was over and looks like a Greek god in some aspects. So I just think that Yanda did more for me. You know, I think it's harder to judge Yanda because there aren't really statistics out there to back him up. It's just, do you know football or not? And so they know it enough to give him the finalist nod, but just not enough to nudge him along. So I'm a little more concerned about Yanda because the more years go by, the more phenomenal interior linemen come into play, and it makes it very much difficult to get in there. But Suggs, he has the sack number. He's going to get in eventually. I just hope people see the light with Yanda because he does deserve to get that gold jacket, and hopefully he gets it one day.
Yeah, I'm hoping. And actually, there was a bit more information that was released on Suggs and Yanda not making it. And Luke Jones ended up putting out, per the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Terrell Suggs and Marshall Yanda both made the final 7, which will automatically make them a finalist for next year, which Luke calls a meaningful step for their eventual election. And he also was Willie Anderson, Terrell Suggs, and Marshall Yanda automatically modern era finalists, final 7, but they did not get 80% of the vote. And again, there's so many different rules that they're check boxes you got to check off. And so it's like they're so close. Like they checked off this one and they checked off that one, but they just couldn't check off the final one. So look, I wouldn't be shocked, Sam, if both of these guys made it next season. And I think honestly, they both deserve to.
Yeah, the only problem is the guys coming in.
Yeah,
Adrian Peterson, Ben Roethlisberger. I think Joe Hayden's one. I'm whiffing on Andre Whitworth is another guy. So there's a lot of guys coming in that may push them back a little bit more. So I'm a little nervous for these guys. Rob Gronkowski, another guy. So, I mean, it's going to be tough. And there's a reason why it's called the Hall of Fame. There's a reason why some guys have to wait. I mean, a lot of very good players have had to wait a long time. So I wouldn't be holding my breath again this year for them to get in. I mean, hopefully they get to push in. There's no max limit on the number of players that get in, but it's going to be another tough showing for these guys if they want to be in Canton next year.
Eric Weddle, another one, yeah. Former Raven that could potentially get in. So, hey, 3 former Ravens getting in next year, and you can sign me up for that. Although it would be kind of poetic, honestly, if Suggs and Roethlisberger made it in the same year based off of their rivalry. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure Gronkowski will be a first ballot guy. There might be another one on there, but Suggs and Yanda have to get their gold jackets, and they will eventually, but hopefully it is next year. Now, speaking of the Hall of Fame, Sam, Derrick Henry had a very interesting take on his Hall of Fame career, which he does not think is a Hall of Fame career right now. He said he still has so much to do, and I think that's interesting. I mean, look, Derrick Henry, you pull up his stats, and I mean, I will do it. We will pull up the stats to talk about. Henry has, over the course of his career, over 13,000 yards and 122 rushing touchdowns. So, yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good resume so far. And again, it's probably Derrick being a little humble about his situation, and, that's who Derrick is. But I think, Sam, if Derrick Henry retired today, I think he'd be a Hall of Famer.
He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't want to hear it, Derrick. Yes, you want to win a championship. Yes, you got more yards to put on the ground. Obviously, you are a phenomenal athlete, but you are a first ballot Hall of Famer. There'll be no question about it. Your name's King Henry, for crying out loud. So good on him to have that humble pie at this late into his tenure as a running back in the National Football League. But the stats speak for itself, and the merits speak for themselves. You are a phenomenal running back, very deserving. If he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, we riot for sure.
Yeah, and he was, Kay Adams was talking to him like, hey, this Hall of Fame. And he's like, I appreciate it, but I don't see myself as that yet. And I'm just like, I think he's being genuine, but I'm also like, okay, like, you're a Hall of Famer, Derrick. Yeah. Like, we're just going to put that out there now. So again, when it's all said and done, there are going to be a lot of Ravens in the Hall of Fame. They have a lot of, right now, Sam, would you classify Lamar as a Hall of Famer yet? Or does he need a Super Bowl, more stuff? Where are you with
MVPs? I think this guy got it. I think Lamar is the first ballot Hall of Famer. I think a Super Bowl ring will be nice cherry on top in the conversation about who's the greatest of all time. He could be up there right now. I don't think he's up there with the greatest because of that Super Bowl ring, but once he gets it, that's the telling point. But as far as Canton, that boy is going to be wearing a gold jacket.
Yeah.
If he retired today, he'd have one tomorrow.
There are going to be a lot of Ravens when it's all said and done in Canton. Sam, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for hopping on the way out. Be sure to tell people where they can find you and what you're working on.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Ravens Talk Podcast. You can also find me on the Locked On Ravens Squad show Monday and Wednesday with Kevin and Q. We have a new episode coming out next week. Hopefully we'll get Cole Jackson on. A lot of Ravens fans know about him. He'll be on the show talking about the coaching staff and what he sees as far as changes go. But you can also find me again, Locked On Ravens Squad show twice a week, Mondays and Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m.
Be sure to check him out. Sam does awesome work. Links in the description down below. Sam, I appreciate you again. Thank you to everybody who watched and listened today to Locked On Ravens. Appreciate you as always. We will potentially be back here with some bonus episodes over the weekend if there are headlines. But if not, we'll be back on Monday with our regularly scheduled programs. So be sure to hit the like and subscribe button in video form, follow along and subscribe in audio form. And I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.